Good morning. It is Wednesday, and I'm really happy because the internet is holding out. When people doing all this homeschooling malarkey, and I don't pay for good, decent internet at my own house, so it's my internet is holding out. But how are we? Good morning. You are watching Kwak TV because why watch Crack TV when you can watch Kwak TV? So if you are watching this live, make sure you drop in the comments, say hello, say good morning, say guten tag, say whatever you like. I'll talk back to you. And also, if you are watching this on replay, remember to put hashtag replay in the comments for me later on so I know who stalks me on a daily basis, because I do like to know. So it's Wednesday. We're halfway through another week. Halfway through. And what a week I am having. On that note, actually, good morning, Mr. Jones. Yes, this is becoming a habit. I swear you now do your schedule to watch Kwak TV, which I absolutely love. This week, I've started journaling. Not that way. Started journaling. Really, really love it. I've wanted to do it for a while. Wasn't really sure how I do it or anything like that. But because I don't overthink things, but I like to know how everyone does their own rendition of it, or a rendition of something. And I'm not going to research this. I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to do it how I want to do it. And I love it. Absolutely love it. And one of the challenges that I'm going to set today for anyone that ends up watching this now or on replay or anything like that is a section that I put in my journal every day, which is called Reconnect. Reconnect. And one of the things that I am rubbish at, I'll hold my hands up to it, is keeping in touch with people fluidly. You know, I'll ring all my siblings away from where I live, and I'm quite rubbish at keeping in touch with them. My best friend lives in Chester, real rubbish at keeping in touch with them. And it's not a negative thing, you know, they're living their life, I'm living mine. But one of the things that I've noticed I haven't done is keep in touch with them. And that's why now, every day, in this little reconnect section that I do, I set a name, a person that I want to reconnect with that way. It could be a message, it could be a phone call, it could be a Snapchat, it can even be sending them a bloody TikTok, right? It's just reconnecting with them. And if anything, making them go, God, I've not heard of him for a while. And I can tell you for a fact now, in case she actually does end up watching this, today I'm going to be contacting my friend Danielle from Nottingham, who actually originally helped me start and read over my original business plans when I started my original business. Who's a really, really good friend. So I'm going to be connecting with her today. That's my little task. However, with no further ado, I believe I always say that word wrong. Not sure. I'm sure I'll get corrected. But, good morning, Becky. I don't know what you're saying, who doesn't too, because like me, I waffle on forever. So, as we know, every morning on Kwak TV, I go through different days of the year, because every day of the year there is an event, there is something going on, there is a theme, whatever. I find them quite interesting. I don't look at the days ahead. I always wait till the morning, then I look. And to anyone on a diet, I'm not even sorry. Today is chocolate cake day. Oh, love a bit of cake, don't we? I love cake. If you've seen Little Britain, you'll know the sketch. Oh, good morning, Mr. Stephen Harrison, who actually makes cakes. Stephen Harrison was on the show last week, the Free From Baker, and he makes an array of gluten-free products. So make sure you check them out. They are the Free From Baker. He puts his new menu up every Friday, and he sells out within an hour. So just says something there, doesn't it? So yes, today is chocolate cake day. It is also World Breast Pumping Day. Yep, my guest backstage is like, okay. It is World Breast Pumping Day. You get to pumping, ladies. You get to pumping. That's all I can say with that. It is also National Geographic Day. And remember, it is still Veganuary and it is Hobby Month. You've got a couple of days left in Veganuary and Hobby Month. If you have been doing Veganuary, let me know how it's been going. How have you enjoyed it? What have you been doing? What was your favourite thing that you had? What was the one thing you possibly missed? I like to know these things. I'm a nosy bastard. I like to know these things, right? Just am. So, yes, Stephen, that was very, very, very well timed. And then also your Twitter hashtags, because everyone needs to be using Twitter. We need to be using every platform. I'll be honest, I normally used to hate Twitter. I've been educated on it a bit. And for the form of PR, top notch. So today's hashtags that are trending on Twitter is hashtag Wednesday Thought, hashtag Wednesday Motivation, hashtag FFB Wednesday, which stands for Follow Back Wednesday. And I believe that is all of them. But just to put this in perspective, Wednesday Thought has already had 23,000 tweets. Wednesday Motivation has had 9,849 to be exact. And the FFB don't tell me, because that's useful. But yes, so there you go. That is your days of the year. That is your hashtags. Use them at your own I was going to say peril, but I don't want you to use them at peril. So today, my guest, who I am about to bring on, I adore this woman. And several people that hopefully will be watching this live or watch this later also love this woman. Sherlock Holmes looks shit in his detective hat because this woman can make it go with an array of fabulous scarves that I know she's been getting into after her, I'm going to say, fashionista session about what colours you should eat. She's like, so I'm really looking forward to this person coming on, and I'm looking forward to the topics. I asked her just before I came on, and it's really important. It's a really important lesson for anyone in business and in life to listen to this. So I'm putting a bit, I hope she's not like, Jesus Christ, all right, cheers. But it's, so with no further ado, good morning, Sheryl.
Good morning.
How are you, my love?
I'm very good, thank you. I need to just say to people, because I'm a natural talker, trained listener, and when you put the two of us together, this could be dangerous grounds.
Love it. So, Sheryl, just in case people don't know, who are you and what do you do?
So I am known as the Listening Detective. My company's called Step by Step Listening, and what I do is help people do more of what they love, delegate the stuff they don't, and ditch the critic that says they can't. And I do that by helping them understand what's their purpose for talking and what kind of listening do they need in order to get what they want.
Love it.
That's probably the clearest I've said that for ages, so thank you. It's only taken me 12, 14 years to work that out.
I don't think I've ever heard you actually say that as clear as
I've been working on it with some help, so it's I help other people get clarity.
You're going to be watching this on replay going, what did I say?
I will. I'm going to write that down, and it's going to be on my LinkedIn later, and it's going to be out everywhere.
Love it. So, for the can't think of the word, for the purpose of this video, I've changed my name for once to Kwak Talk, which is obviously my business name. There's a reason why, people, because Sheryl is the listening detective, and there's two very different words there: talk and listen, right? And it's that old cliche phrase of there's a reason you was born with two of these and one of them. And I've got to say, sometimes that is way bigger with me than them. So how did you get into what you do, Sheryl? In a nutshell, how did you get into it?
In a nutshell, I've always been curious about how I can, how me being me can make other people happy. So I think from a very young age, even like 3 years old, I was one of those people pleasers. My sister was born and was really poorly when she was born, and I think my mum was really stressed. My dad was in the Navy, and he was like coming home and having like 4 hours sleep. So as a young child, I had this quite a stressful environment around me, and so I just learned how to adapt and just be how other people needed me to be in order to make their lives easier. So I've always had a fascination of listening to people, but what eventually happened, after a long journey through it, was you go, oh, well, it's great listening to other people, but how do I get people to listen to me? When do I get my needs met? When do people hear what I've got to say? And of course, by the time I got to that point, really, I wasn't talking about what I wanted. I was just talking about what wasn't fair and what hadn't happened, and why hadn't people been doing what I'd been doing? Why weren't they listening to me and guessing what I needed? And actually, I forgot really, obviously, how many times I guessed and got it wrong, and how I adjusted and had to collect loads of data to try and work out how to accommodate other people's needs. And so that's kind of like the foundation of it. Then I got into management when I was about 19, so I'm 53 now. So I've been 32 years, whatever that is, 33, 40 years. Oh my God, 34 years I've been in management or leadership of some sort. I don't feel it at all. And so I've always been in roles where my purpose was to motivate, manage or mentor people to achieve an outcome. Now, I've been a bank manager, I've been a Slim and Well consultant, I've been a Slim and Well area manager. So my roles have always been, we've got to achieve this. How are we going to get from one to the other? And what do I need to say that's going to motivate this individual to want to do it? And I've always been really, really good at it. And that sounds a little bit braggy, but I still now, I haven't worked for Slim and Well since 2008. And I still get people now coming up to me saying, I've never had someone that motivated me like you did. And so I know that I've had that knack of sort of listening to what that person wants and feeding back that information in a way that worked for them. I don't always get it right the first time. I have to adapt and play with it, but it's something I've always loved doing. So that's what I was doing. And then in 2006, I was aware that I was motivating a lot of people in the Slimming World class.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, I was having loads of conversations about these difficult conversations. So they wanted to eat healthily and they wanted to do their things, but the kids and the partner were whinging about this new food. So they were having to deal with this feedback and they were uncomfortable with it. Or partners were saying things like, oh, guess now you're really skinny, you're going to leave me now, aren't you? And so they had this insecurity where they were feeling great, but now it's like it wasn't okay to feel great. Combined with the fact that I had people saying things like, I noticed that people who got their weight loss and kept it off, they would talk about themselves as, I always used to be skinny until. So it was like their weight gain was a temporary sense of identity. So when I had my children or I had an accident or something had happened in their life. So when they got back to target, they kind of reconnected with their slim self and stayed there. The people who, after about 7 years, I got a bit despondent because I like to get results. So when I start seeing people coming back now having gained the weight and some, these people were always a bit, and I came in this category. Even now, my dad will refer to me as a chunky baby. I was always solid, and I was the big sister. So everything about my sense of identity was I was a big person. And so what I realised for my weight loss to happen personally, I had to start talking about myself as slim, fit, elegant, slender, to reinvent my identity so that when I got to that target weight, I believed that's who I was and that's where I needed to be. And so I started getting fascinated about what can I do differently. And I realised I had to listen to what they were saying, and I had to have the skills to give the feedback. And that's when I started training as a coach back in 2006.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into it. And I spent the last 14 years listening to people and noticing patterns and getting curious about what's the difference between the person who speaks and gets what they want and the person who doesn't.
Do you know what? To an extent, I'd say I'm very similar. With a lot of people wonder where the talks part came on my name, and they go, "Oh, is it because you just talk a lot?" I'm like, to be honest, for me, it's something that was a negative thing when I was younger, that I've now turned into a positive thing when I'm older. And the main thing, and I remember having this in a one-to-one in one of our networking meetings with someone, I can't remember who, and they basically said, if you're struggling to know what you want to do, or if you know someone that is struggling to know what they want to do, ask them to ask their parent or their guardian what they are good at, what their passions used to be. What did they always get told not to do? Because a lot of the times, the reason they was doing it is because they enjoyed doing it. And I remember when I was at school, my mum would always come to my parents' evening. The one thing she'd always get told, oh, he does talk a lot. Oh, he does talk a lot. I'm the youngest of 4 children to a single mum, and we all lived in one house, right? You had to fight to be heard. So for me, because I was the youngest, I was the smallest, a lot of the time my voice wasn't heard at home. Not in a negative way. We just had a very loud house. So then my time to talk was when I was with my pretty much one friend that I had when I was at school, because I was a massive introvert. And it's not a negative thing, but it was just always, oh, he talks a lot. He talks a lot. And now, like you're saying, where people needed someone to listen to them, I started learning as I grew up, a lot of people need someone to talk on their behalf. Because not in a, well, this is what they want, but they tell me, and I'm like, well, why don't you say it? Oh, I'm scared of the outcome.
It's the advocate, isn't it, for somebody? Yeah. And I think, and I guess that was it for me, as I was criticised. It took me through being self-employed, where people would say to me, you talk too much, you talk too fast. So then I trained as a listener. And so in the business world, it was always okay. I was good at motivating people, but this is more in a personal context. Yeah. And so then I trained in listening. So I thought, okay, well, I've taken that feedback on. I talk too much. I talk too fast. So then I would be quieter. And then people go, oh, you're always sulking. What's wrong with you? It's like, oh, for goodness sake, this is my resting bitch face. I'm not smiling all the time. This is just, sometimes I just want to just go in my own little world and not have to put this face on to make you happy. Yeah. I'm just processing something, I'm thinking. I mean, generally speaking, I actually have got quite a smiley persona most of the time. It's not often, but my family don't stress over me if I sit quietly and go, because I'm just relaxing. So then you get feedback that you're sulking or you're being too quiet or what's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I'm in rest mode. I'm just having a break from thinking or processing or having to please anybody else bar myself for a moment. I'm fine. And actually what becomes the problem is people keep going, are you okay? And it's like, I was, until you kept asking me the questions. And so I went through that phase, and then you go, okay, so I talk too much for some people, I'm not talking enough for other people, so I'll ask questions to check out what they would like to have happen. How do they need me to be? And then they go, oh, you're doing that coaching thing, oh, you're overanalyzing everything, oh my god, I didn't want a counselling session. And so you go through this, right, so I can't talk, I can't be quiet, and I'm not to ask questions. What do I do? And in the end, I realised that I had to get really clear what was my purpose for being quiet, chatting, or asking questions. And as long as I knew why I was doing it, I could own the fact that this is what works for me. So if I knew I was resting, I can often, that person probably really cares about me and is worried I'm upset and there's something wrong. I could reassure them, I'm absolutely fine, this is my resting bitch face, I'm just having some time off. And then I can even ask them, are you okay? Because sometimes they want to worry about you rather than thinking about their own stuff. So I can check in they're okay, and I go, but I'm okay, and I need some time on my own. Equally, if I'm asking questions, what I realised over time is sometimes I'm asking loads of questions of the other person and getting them to do the talking because I don't want to talk about how I'm feeling. So I'm using it as a distraction, and sometimes it's because they genuinely have said something and I don't understand, or I want to understand, or whatever. And sometimes I think then this is where I have the most fun with my clients, is my purpose for chatting. And so I spend a lot of time training people to go, so when you're talking and you don't get what you want, do you know why you're talking before you start?
Exactly.
Because sometimes we're talking to vent. A good power bitch is great. Do you know what? That bloody Callum today, he did that the other day and he really teed me off. And you just have a vent. And nothing needs to be done, nothing needs to be sorted. We love Callum for being who he is, but him being his gorgeous, awesome stuff really ticked me off today. And that's it, it's done. Not that you have, by the way. But,
just on that note, by the way, let's just say good morning to Caroline Andrew Johnston.
Hi, Caroline.
Caroline. But yeah, no, you're completely right. You're completely right. And for me, this is why I talk on people's behalf a lot of the time. And sometimes it's because it's possibly a shared thought. I'm like, you're not the only one that thought that, I thought it. But then a lot of the time, which is due to me, I can come off as possibly a bad guy or a negative guy. But I'm really good, and my partner even said this, I'm very good at conflict resolution. And I always have been. And that comes from me working in hospitality and catering, dealing with complaints, or as I call them, Karens, right? And it's not a negative thing. Everyone has the right to complain. But I was the one that dealt with them because I can see the customer's point of view, I can see the business point of view, and I'm the one in the middle. And I've always been good at conflict resolution. Always. Don't get me wrong, at first, I always go, and I know this, I go in for like you say, the original bitch bit. And I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And then I'm like, right, actually, that's not going to fix this, is it? That ain't going to fix it. So that's where I kind of probably take out the leaf of your book, I listen, then I talk.
Yeah.
And it has to be that way a lot of the time. And me, actually, with Caroline on the call, because I know Caroline won't mind, Caroline even says, when she does her presentations about public speaking, etc., or dealing with clients, she says, you've got two of these and one of these, like I said earlier. She went, but even she struggles to use these two sometimes. Yeah. She went, but a lot of the time, it's just because naturally, this is bigger. It don't mean you're not listening, just that's bigger.
And I'm as guilty. I remember when I first started networking, and I'd be at networking events, especially if someone asked me a question, I'd answer it and I'd talk away because I'm all excited, and then people go, oh, don't really listen, do you? And I go, I listen for 8 hours a day. When do you think it's my turn to talk? I have to, I'm a human being as well. I need to be heard. I need to have my voice. But what I will say is that it's, if you get feedback like you talk too much, if these are people you care about and it's repeated and it comes from more than one area of your life, it's more than one person, you can own the fact you want to be heard and you have to have a voice, but so does everybody else. And there's a fine line always, and that's where we're always balancing in conversation between your turn, my turn, and how can I honour all of it. And the advocacy thing is great when we speak on behalf of people, that we tell a story. But sometimes if we do that too often for people, we disempower them and we don't give them the courage to speak for themselves. And so there's a journey you have to go on with learning what's your purpose. And I guess most people talk, and one of the things I talk to people a lot about is, if you are somebody who feels like people are not listening to you and you don't feel heard and you don't feel understood, be aware of whether you're listening to yourself when you talk.
Yep.
Because often the purpose for chatting, particularly to a coach, the reason people come to me isn't to hear what I've got to say, it's to hear themselves. They come to me to have them reflected back to them so they can work out what they would like to have happen without suggestions and input. When I've got a mentoring head on, yes, I will give examples and tools and resources, and I've got models that help make sense of why it's happening. But the point is for them to make their own decisions. If we're not getting heard by the people, it's, remember, the brain literally finds it difficult when people repeat things. It goes, oh, I've heard that once. Oh, I've heard that twice. I've heard that 3 times. And so once it gets the 3rd time, it saves energy and stops listening. So as a trained facilitator, I have to work much harder to listen to something that's repeated. And how I get better at it is by paying attention to the new information that's arrived, rather than just noticing the stuff that's being repeated. And so that's what you can do with your friends, is notice the difference. But if you're talking and you're not listening to yourself, the chances are your brain conserves energy by stop listening to you. And if you're trying to get heard and understood, you have to check with yourself, do you hear and understand what you're saying? So many times, I think you've heard this story before, but the lady who came to me because she wanted her husband to be more assertive. And so we talked about being assertive. So she started asking him to be more assertive. He started being assertive. He started saying no to her. She went, oh God, I didn't want him to say no. I wanted him to be obedient. What I really wanted was him to help me with my to-do list. I wanted him to, so she wanted collaboration. She wanted help. She wanted to feel supported. She didn't want to feel so alone. She wanted to feel togetherness. And her word for assertive was, she meant get up off his bum and get on and do stuff, but she meant off her list, not his. And so often when we're going through this communication process, we're not even consciously aware of what we're saying, or what do we mean by what we say, and what would we that's where the detective goes, what would we actually hear and see them doing? And we assume everybody else knows because it's English or whatever, that everybody's used the same words for the same thing. So I'm going to shut up now.
It's all right. No, you're completely right. Completely right. And I really, really like that story. We already said before you came on, we've got a second one of these to do. So you're going to be coming back for a second one. But because we will have to wrap up, you have a book, don't you?
I do have a book. Well, I've got this one. I've got this one I've already published, which is Manage Your Critic: From Overwhelm to Clarity in 7 Steps. And that takes you through a self-coaching process. It's what I pay attention to when I'm coaching someone to settle their state, to change their story they tell themselves, so that they can actually talk about what they want rather than what they don't want. And that they can start to notice what's great about them. But the book that's coming out later this year is Do, Delegate or Ditch: The 7 Principles of Motivated Action, and making sense of what you say and how that motivates or demotivates you to act on your decisions.
Love it. And do you know what? I'm going to get you back on soon, because
I'd love to.
You're coming back on soon. I'm not having any of this. My diary's too busy. You can cancel an appointment for me, right? You can.
Okay. So I'm not allowed to be busy.
No,
I can set boundaries and say no to him, but we'll let him play that game for a moment. But I'd love to come on. I didn't see that at all. But no,
Sheryl, so I know people can find you on LinkedIn, Facebook, website. They can find you everywhere, can't they?
Yeah. Except for I am on Twitter, but I don't forget to remember to check it. So don't go there and find me. LinkedIn and Facebook, you will find me, and on the 4N circuit.
Fantastic. Sheryl, thank you so much. I will get you back on the show soon so we could talk about that fantastic new book that's launching this year that I want to pick your brains about. And apparently I'm basically, if Paul O'Grady, Alan Carr and Graham Norton had a love child, apparently that's me. It's like I have a really big stick and I can just poke people with it.
Yeah.
No pun intended. So, Sheryl, have a lovely day. Thank you so much for coming on, and I will speak to you shortly. Bye. Oh, love that woman. Love her. So you have been watching Kwak TV. Why watch Kwak TV? Where you can watch Kwak TV. I'd love Sheryl Andrews. I didn't even realise the time, and I've got an appointment I've got to get to because, you know, the world's busy and so is my business, apparently. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for Michaela Wade, or Michaela, depending on how you want to say it. I've got Michaela Wade tomorrow, and I cannot wait. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30, because remember, why watch Kwak TV where you can watch Kwak TV? See you then.